For 28 years, Sean Diddy Combs built an empire by intimidating, controlling, and silencing anyone who got in his way. He had rappers checking in, paying tribute, and bowing down to his bad boy machinery. But there was one man he never dared to touch. One rapper who dissed him for nearly 3 decades, called him out by name, connected him to M's, and exposed his darkest secrets. And Diddy never once fired back. That man was Eminem, and we know exactly why Diddy was too scared to mess with him. What made Eminem different? While everyone thought Eminem was just throwing random shots at Puff, he was actually revealing the real reason Diddy couldn't touch him. It wasn't just about lyrical skill or album sales. It was about something much deeper. Authentic street backing, real protection, and the kind of respect that money can't buy, but fear definitely can. From his Samoan connections to his refusal to check in with the Crips, from standing up to Suge Knight to having 50 Cent's unwavering loyalty, Eminem built a reputation that even the most powerful mogul in hip-hop knew better than to test. And every diss track, every subliminal, every prediction about Diddy's downfall was Eminem's way of showing the world exactly why he was untouchable. This is the real story of why Diddy never messed with Eminem. And it's about to change everything you thought you knew about both of them. But before we dive into why Diddy was terrified of Eminem, we need to understand what made Marshall Mathers different from every other rapper in the game. This wasn't about chart positions or Grammy wins. This was about something real street backing industry rarely talks about. Real street backing. See, most rappers who beef with mogul like Diddy end up getting crushed by the machine. Their careers get sabotaged. Their radio play disappears. Their features dry up. But Eminem? He had something that money couldn't buy, an industry power structure couldn't touch. Authentic protection from people who didn't care about Billboard charts. The foundation of Diddy's fear started with one simple fact. Eminem had genuine connections to some of the most respected and feared groups on the West Coast. We're talking about the Samoan community, specifically the legendary Booyah tribe. 5 brothers who commanded respect in South Central LA, not through record deals, but through loyalty and strength. When Paul Rosenberg, Eminem's manager, reached out to Monster Guna from the regime about Eminem getting extorted by some Crips, it wasn't a business transaction. According to Gunge himself, Paul Rosenberg reached out. He was being extorted by some Crips. This led to the 2003 collaboration on 911 with Booyah Tribe and Be Real. But more importantly, it established Eminem's protection. The Crips tried to make Eminem check in. That street protocol where you acknowledge local gang authorities or pay tribute. Most celebrities would have either paid up or publicly submitted. But Eminem chose option 3. He stood his ground with the confidence of someone who had his own backing. And when the Crips realized pressing the issue meant dealing with his Samoan allies, they backed down. That's when the word spread through LA's hip-hop community. Eminem wasn't just another celebrity to be extorted. He had real protection and the will to use it. And Diddy, who built his entire empire on intimidation and control, knew exactly what that meant. But having Samoan protection was just the beginning. What really proved Eminem's character and what sent a clear message to industry power brokers like Diddy was what happened when he faced down the most feared man in hip-hop history at that time. Picture this. It's the early 2000s and 50 Cent is filming his In the Club video, one of the biggest moments in hip-hop. The set is buzzing with energy. Cameras rolling, dancers moving, then suddenly chaos erupts. Suge Knight has arrived with what witnesses describe as an army of gang members ready to crash the party and assert his dominance. Now, Suge Knight wasn't just any industry figure. This was a man whose reputation was built on intimidation, violence, and making people disappear from the music business. When Suge showed up to your video shoot uninvited, it meant trouble. Big trouble. Tony Yao, who was there that day, described the scene. The game confirmed the intensity on Vlad TV. This wasn't a casual visit. This was Suge Knight flexing his power and expecting everyone to bow down or get out. But while security scattered and industry executives panicked, Eminem made a choice that would define his reputation forever. According to Tony Yao, M stood up to them and refused to be intimidated. Think about that for a second. While everyone else was running from Suge Knight, a man who had allegedly orchestrated beatdowns, destroyed careers, and worse, Eminem stood his ground. He wasn't intimidated by the reputation, the crew, or the consequences. He was ready to fight the boogeyman of hip-hop if necessary. The confrontation ended without violence, but not because Eminem backed down. Knight eventually left after realizing that escalating meant dealing with more than just one rapper. It meant creating a much bigger problem with people who weren't afraid of his reputation. And Diddy was watching. He saw how Eminem handled the most dangerous man in the industry, and he understood the message. This wasn't someone who could be intimidated, controlled, or silenced through traditional industry pressure. Now, having street protection and standing up to Suge Knight was impressive, but what really made Diddy think twice about messing with Eminem was the alliance that formed in the early 2000s, an alliance that would become one of the most powerful partnerships in hip-hop history. When Eminem signed 50 Cent to Shady Records in 2002, it wasn't just a business deal. This was the merger of two forces that complemented each other perfectly. Eminem's fearless authenticity and 50 Cent's street credibility backed by real power. Together, they created something that even moguls like Diddy had to respect. See, 50 Cent wasn't just another rapper trying to make it. This was a man who had survived multiple deletion attempts, including being hit 9 times and left for dead. He had connections throughout New York's underworld and a reputation for never backing down from anyone. When he aligned with Eminem, it sent a clear message to the industry. These two were untouchable. But what made this alliance truly dangerous for someone like Diddy was the loyalty factor. This wasn't a typical mentor-student relationship or a business partnership that could be broken with money. 50 Cent genuinely respected Eminem for who he was as a person, not just as an artist. And that respect was mutual. Throughout their careers, 50 has consistently demonstrated his willingness to defend Eminem against any threats. When anyone came for M, they had to deal with both of them. And 50's ongoing public campaign against Diddy, the constant social media trolling, the documentary announcements, the relentless pressure served as a form of protection for Eminem. Think about it from Diddy's perspective. Attacking Eminem would mean going to war with both him and 50 Cent simultaneously. That's not just a rap beef. That's a battle against two of the most fearless and well-connected artists in the industry. Backed by genuine street credibility and unwavering loyalty to each other, Diddy built his empire on divide-and-conquer tactics, isolating his targets and using industry pressure to break them down. But with Eminem and 50 Cent, he was facing a united front that couldn't be bought, intimidated, or separated. And that terrified him. With his protection established and his alliance solidified, Eminem began doing something that no other rapper dared to do consistently. He started dissing Diddy directly, repeatedly, and with increasing boldness. But these weren't random shots. They were calculated moves designed to expose what Eminem knew about Diddy's operation. The pattern started early. Back in 1996, on a track called Effing Crazy, a young, hungry Eminem was already taking aim at Diddy's bad boy empire, suggesting he could come into Puff's territory and cause serious damage. Most people dismissed it as typical battle rap bravado, but looking back, it was the first diss in a war that would last nearly 3 decades. By 2000, when Eminem had achieved mainstream success, his disses became more direct and personal. On Marshall Mathers, he dismissed Diddy as irrelevant and told him to get lost in the most disrespectful way possible. On I'm Back, he made explicit references to Diddy's high-profile relationship with Jennifer Lopez, suggesting he could steal her away and that Diddy knew it was true. What made these disses different from typical rap beef was the consistency and the fearlessness. While other artists might take one hit and then back off when industry pressure mounted, Eminem kept coming album after album, year after year. He kept Diddy's name in his mouth, and Diddy never responded. Think about that for a moment. In hip-hop culture, disrespect demands a response. When someone calls you out by name repeatedly, especially someone of Eminem's caliber, you're expected to fire back. The fact that Diddy consistently chose silence spoke volumes about the dynamic between them. Eminem wasn't just throwing random insults. He was systematically challenging Diddy's authority and exposing his unwillingness to engage. Each unanswered diss made Diddy look weaker and more afraid, and Eminem knew exactly what he was doing. This wasn't just lyrical skill, this was psychological warfare. Eminem was using his platform to demonstrate that Diddy, despite all his power and influence, was afraid to engage with someone who had real backing and nothing to lose. But Eminem's psychological warfare was about to reach a whole new level. In 2018, something happened that would forever change the dynamic between these two men and send shockwaves through the entire hip-hop industry. Machine Gun Kelly had made the mistake of going after Eminem, and M responded with Ill Shot, a track that was supposed to end MGK's career, and it did. But buried in that lyrical deletion was a line that had nothing to do with Machine Gun Kelly and everything to do with Sean Combs. Eminem dropped the most explosive allegation in hip-hop history. He directly connected Diddy to Tupac Shakur's M. The bar was devastating, suggesting that the day MGK puts out a real hit record would be the same day Diddy admits he orchestrated the hit that eliminated Pac. Even though Eminem quickly added, "I'm just playing Diddy. You know I love you." The damage was done. Think about the audacity of that moment. Eminem had just accused the most powerful mogul in hip-hop of being involved in the elimination of one of the genre's greatest legends on a track that would be heard by millions. And he did it so casually, so confidently, that it felt like he was stating a known fact rather than making an accusation. The hip-hop community went into overdrive. Reaction videos exploded across YouTube. Industry insiders were scrambling to understand what just happened. Had Eminem really just connected Diddy to Tupac's death on a diss track? And more importantly, why wasn't Diddy responding? This wasn't just a diss anymore. This was Eminem demonstrating that he could say literally anything about Diddy, even accuse him of elimination, and face zero consequences. The silence from Bad Boy Records was deafening. No lawsuit, no response track, no industry pressure, nothing. That's when everyone realized the truth. Diddy wasn't just avoiding Eminem out of respect or strategy, he was genuinely afraid of what would happen if he engaged. Because if Eminem was bold enough to connect him to Tupac's M publicly, what else did he know? And what else was he willing to reveal? After the ill-shot bombshell, something interesting happened in the industry. While Diddy remained silent, other powerful figures started to take notice of the dynamic between these two men. And what they saw confirmed what many had suspected for years. Eminem operated by different rules. See, the traditional hip-hop power structure works on a simple principle. Moguls like Diddy control careers through radio play, industry connections, and business relationships. Cross them, and your music stops getting played. Your features dry up. Your opportunities disappear. It's a system that's kept many rappers in line for decades. But Eminem was different. His success wasn't dependent on industry semantics or mogul approval. He had built his empire through pure talent, authentic fan loyalty, and most importantly, independence from the traditional power structure that Diddy represented. When Eminem went after Diddy, there were no consequences because there couldn't be any consequences. Diddy's usual weapons, industry blacklisting, RADIO, boycotts, business pressure, were useless against someone who had already proven he could succeed without playing by those rules. This created a terrifying reality for Diddy for the first time in his career. He was facing someone he couldn't control, couldn't silence, and couldn't destroy through traditional means. Eminem had the one thing that moguls fear most: complete artistic and financial independence backed by genuine street credibility. Industry insiders started whispering about the dynamic. Here was Diddy, a man who had built his reputation on controlling narratives and silencing opposition, being systematically disrespected by someone who seemed completely untouchable, and every day he didn't respond made him look weaker. The power shift was becoming obvious to everyone watching. Eminem wasn't just dissing Diddy, he was demonstrating that the old rules didn't apply to him. And that realization sent a message to every other mogul in the industry. The game had changed and some players were simply beyond their reach. But the real moment that proved Eminem's insight into Diddy's world came in November 2023, when everything he had been hinting at for years suddenly exploded into public view. Cassie Ventura filed a bombshell lawsuit against Sean Combs, accusing him of RF Physical A and forcing her into what she called dual encounters with male escorts that Diddy allegedly filmed for blackmail. The lawsuit described years of systematic violence and saint that painted a picture of the bad boy mogul that the public had never seen. Within 24 hours, Diddy settled the case for allegedly $20 million. $20 million to make it go away quietly. But the damage was done. The floodgates had opened. And suddenly, Eminem's decades of accusations didn't seem like random disses anymore. Hip-hop fans who had been following Eminem's lyrical warfare against Diddy for years started connecting the dots. All those references to A, all those hints about Diddy's treatment of women, all those suggestions about the dark side of the bad boy empire, they weren't just creative insults. They were warnings. The settlement sent a clear message to the industry. Eminem had been right all along. While everyone else was celebrating Diddy's success and turning a blind eye to the rumors, Eminem had been systematically exposing the truth through his music. And now that truth was validated in federal court documents. But here's what really proved Diddy's fear of Eminem. Even after being publicly vindicated, even after the Cassie lawsuit confirmed what he'd been saying for years, Eminem still didn't get a response from Diddy. No lawsuit for defamation, no industry pressure, no retaliation of any kind, just silence. That silence spoke louder than any diss track ever could. It confirmed that Diddy knew Eminem had been telling the truth. And more importantly, it showed he was terrified of what else might reveal if he decided to really go nuclear. But the most chilling moment in this entire timeline came in July 2024 when Eminem released The Death of Slim Shady, an album that would prove to be his most prophetic work yet. On the track Fuel, Eminem delivered bars that seemed impossible to ignore. He spelled out rapper without a P while referencing essays. The wordplay was so specific, so deliberate that fans immediately knew he was talking about Diddy. But here's the terrifying part. This was released in July 2024, just 2 months before Diddy's arrest on Saint charges. Think about the precision of that timing. While federal investigators were building their case in secret, Eminem was publicly spelling out the exact crimes Diddy would be charged with. It wasn't luck or coincidence. It was someone with inside knowledge making one final warning. When September 16, 2024 arrived and federal agents arrested Sean Combs on charges of racketeering, ST and transportation to engage in P. The hip-hop world finally understood what they had been witnessing for 28 years. Eminem hadn't been